You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, and this is your daily Star Trek news from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. On today's show, LeVar Burton will host theoretical physicist Michio Kaku in conversation later this week. Walter Koenig discusses the impact of Star Trek in the 1980s in a new clip from crowdfunded documentary In Search of Tomorrow. And we're looking back at this day in Star Trek history. I'm Alison Pitt, and today's show is sponsored by EveryPlate. Try EveryPlate for just $1.99 per meal, plus an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by going to everyplate.com and entering code DSTN199. First up today, it's an upcoming event alert. LeVar Burton is set to help a renowned theoretical physicist explore what some scientists call the final frontier, the theory of everything. And you can tune in for the chat. Tomorrow, Thursday, April 29th at 7 p.m. Central Time, the Chicago Humanities Festival is hosting a live stream conversation between Burton and Michio Kaku, professor of theoretical physics and author of the new book, The God Equation. According to the event's organizers, Burton and Kaku will geek out together about the cosmos and the next scientific frontiers. In The God Equation, Kaku explores the history and significance of the theory of everything, a hypothetical theory. The theory of everything, were it to be discovered, would be a unifying framework of physics that could link together all aspects of the physical universe. Such a theory has proved both elusive and tantalizing to theoretical physicists, and there are even some scholars, including the Star Trek guest star Stephen Hawking, who believe that such a theory is actually impossible. To tune in and watch Burton and Kaku's conversation for yourself, just go to chicagohumanities.org and register for the event. Registration is free, and you can also choose to purchase a copy of Kaku's book, The God Equation, through their website. Now next up, almost a year ago, we told you about the upcoming crowdfunded documentary from Creator VC called In Search of Tomorrow. The film promises to take a deep dive into 1980s science fiction film. As was the case with many productions, the COVID-19 pandemic took its toll, stalling production on the film in the past year. Creator VC released a new trailer for the film recently, and TrekMovie.com brought us a special clip featuring Star Trek actor Walter Koenig. To any science fiction fan, it's no secret that the 1980s were packed with memorable science fiction films. In Search of Tomorrow plans to bring films of the decade to light, looking in depth at the movies that captivated imaginations around the world. As a franchise, Star Trek had a strong grip on audiences in the 80s, with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, Star Trek IV, The One with the Whales, and Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. In the documentary clip, Koenig discusses the impact of Star Trek in the 80s, calling The Wrath of Khan classic storytelling. He spoke about the acting methods of William Shatner as Captain Kirk and Ricardo Montalban as Khan in The Wrath of Khan. Koenig described Montalban as being a little bit over the top, noting also that the script demanded that of the character. On his co-star William Shatner, Koenig said, "Bill is no slouch when it comes to emoting." Currently, In Search of Tomorrow has more than 75 interviews recorded for the film, with plans to include even more content. Producers have launched an Indiegogo campaign to support completion of the film. As an example, a pledge of $40 secures a digital copy of the film, your name in the credits, and access to an online community with exclusive content for contributors. Visit Indiegogo.com for more information on those and other perks and to contribute. The campaign ends on Tuesday, May 4th. To see the full clip with Walter Koenig and the new trailer for the film, visit TrekMovie.com. Now, in just a moment, I'll be taking you back in time to find out what happened this week in Star Trek history. But first, a word from our sponsor, EveryPlate. Saturday is a tricky meal in the Pitt household. Now, I can't quite exactly describe it, except that Saturdays are supposed to be the fun meal days because it's the weekend or something. Anyway, because they're supposed to be fun, they are also one of the hardest days to plan. We can't afford to go out every weekend, but now I have a new alternative, EveryPlate. EveryPlate delivers to my door. It has creative and delicious recipes with generous proportions, as I've told you about, and everyone in the house loves them, even the smallest, pickiest one. Now, last Saturday was sriracha pork stir-fry with cabbage, zesty rice, and peanuts. It was an easy recipe, all the ingredients were pre-portioned, and it was quick enough to prepare that I got to spend the extra time listening to the smallest, pickiest one telling me all about why she loves stir-fry. It was awesome. Anyway, you don't have to take my word for it. As a daily Star Trek news listener, you can try EveryPlate for just $1.99 per meal, plus an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by heading to everyplate.com and using the code DSTN199 when you sign up. Head to everyplate.com, click on Get Started, and use the code DSTN199 to try them out for just $1.99 per meal and 20% off your next 2 boxes. That's everyplate.com, and the offer code is DSTN199, and a big thanks to EveryPlate for sponsoring today's show. Now, we're going to take a little look back into Star Trek history, and this is a fun one for me. It was today, April 28th, back in 1949, that actor Paul Guilfoyle was born. Guilfoyle starred as Carl in the Star Trek Discovery Season 3 episodes Terra Firma Part 1 and Terra Firma Part 2. Guilfoyle is probably best known for his long-running role as Captain Jim Brass in the original and best CSI Crime Scene Investigation. He has a credit in over 300 episodes of that show alone across its 14-year run. But Discovery and CSI are hardly Guilfoyle's only credits. Guilfoyle has worked steadily in films and television since the late 1970s, with roles in projects such as the Leonard Nimoy-directed 3 Men and a Baby, 1997's Oscar-winning thriller LA Confidential, and more recently Paramount Plus's series The Good Fight. Please join me in wishing Paul Guilfoyle a very happy 72nd birthday. And you can tune in again next Wednesday for more Star Trek history. Well, that's it for today's daily Star Trek news from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Don't forget to check out the other great shows on the network at podcasts.roddenberry.com. Daily Star Trek News is produced by me, Alison Pitt, with selected stories by Chris Peterson. Today's show was sponsored by EveryPlate. Try EveryPlate for just $1.99 per meal, plus an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by going to everyplate.com and entering code DSTN199. I'm back tomorrow with more of the Star Trek news you need to know and the weekend's Star Trek events. I'm Alison Pitt. Live long and prosper.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.